legal lady to be on track. We can't really start until she tells me she's ready to go. So we might want to get a hold of her. But in the meantime, we can go ahead with some basic business. So do we have an approval of the August 12th minutes, 2020?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any objections? Any other commentary? No, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. And so, pardon us, folks, we just want to wait a couple more minutes, but we definitely want her online because this needs to be recorded.
Yeah, whatever. Oh.
Here she is. Where's she? She indicated there'd be a light coming on, but I don't see anything on the camera back there. Oh, there we are. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Amanda, you want to go ahead and talk about the amendments to Chapter 62? And here you are. You moved.
Good afternoon. I'm Amanda Elmore with Planning and Development, and I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of all the information you have in your packet. About a year ago, staff was asked the question about whether or not we could expand resort dwelling use, vacation rental use, short-term rental use to other zoning classifications where it's not currently permitted or permitted with conditions, or you can seek a conditional use permit. So the county attorney's office started to research that question and issued a memo, which I believe you have in your packet and probably reviewed. And the short answer is that yes, you can, as long as we add a definition of vacation rentals that isn't in conflict with the state definition. So that's what we've tried to encapsulate here in the proposed amendment. Back in February, the issue was brought back to the board with that research, and at that time there was pending state legislation that could have preempted our regulations altogether. So the board made the decision just to hold tight and directed staff to come back with the conclusion of that legislation. And that legislation did not pass, didn't go anywhere. So we were kind of back to what we currently have, which is our existing regulations. Our regulations have been on the books since prior to June 1st, 2011. So they are grandfathered in as they are with regards to resort dwellings. But the proposed ordinance, we got direction on September 15th, a legislative intent to draft amendments to open up vacation rental use to other zoning classifications, largely single-family zoning classifications. There's a matrix that kind of summarizes the changes for you in your agenda packet. And that's really what you have before you. So the vacation rental use would be a permitted use, whereas the resort dwelling use would remain. And in some zoning classifications, it is permitted. In some, it's permitted with conditions. And then there are some parameters that can come into play with regard to non-conforming multifamily use or location, A1A dependent type of rules, occupancy. And then there are other zoning classifications where they have to seek a board hearing for conditional use permit. In the last 5 or 6 years, we have not seen one of those come before the board.
Gentlemen, do we have some questions for Amanda? I have one. So if we leave things, hypothetical, if we leave things as they are, or if this group votes such after public comment, of course, then nothing will change. We're not required by the state to do anything because we already have the rules in play from the 2011.
Right. Currently, you're not required to do anything.
Okay. All right, and I want to make sure of that because I didn't want to do, I didn't want to make a vote on something that's mandated by the state and go and oppose that if it's illegal. And I was going to ask the assistant county attorney, I don't see her here today, but you've answered my question.
Alex is the
Oh,
assistant county attorney.
Oh, is he out there? Okay.
Reviewed the
All right.
amendments. So if you have
Okay.
questions for him.
I didn't see him in the mask.
Yeah.
So what was the question?
Well, I just want to make sure that if, whatever the direction of this vote goes today, after the public hearing, is there anything mandated by the state that we must do here? Or can we vote in a direction that we as independent people feel, and of course what our public feels, which is important?
Right, so Alex Estes, Assistant County Attorney. There's no state mandate at this point that would require the county to take any action. As Amanda already alluded to, we have been grandfathered in based on our statutes and ordinances, being adopted prior to June 2011.
Very good.
Yep.
Perfect.
Thanks.
That's what I want to know. Okay, anything additional, Amanda?
No, not unless you have questions, perhaps after public comment.
Absolutely, I'm sure we will. So just to let you folks know out here, we're one of the paths. We're the Building and Construction Advisory Committee. You have the local planning agency this goes to, and then also the county commissioners. So I advise all of you to attend all of those meetings if you feel passionate one way or another about what's going on so that your voice is heard. Gentlemen, anything further? Okay, we'd like to start taking some people up if you just limit yourself to, as you can see, there's a few of you. And please come up and speak willingly, and it'll be about a 3-minute thing for each of you if we need more time. Please come up. Feel free. And just let us know your name. Are they required to give their address, or is just name fine? Okay, yeah, and please give us your name and the city you live in.
Hey, my name is James McGrath. I live in the South Beaches, 6400 South Highway A1A, known as the Floridana area. The problem I have with this right now is, right now, you do nothing, we're grandfathered. You make one change to that, we're forever going to be Airbnbs. This is a family community down there. It's lucrative for corporations and other people to buy these single-family homes and turn them into Airbnbs. We've changed the complete platform of how we live down there. I'll be honest with you, I met with Mr. Tobia and a bunch of other people, and about 99% of the people who live down there are totally against changing the zoning that we currently have right now. We feel strongly that what's happened in other communities would happen here. Airbnbs are not going to move to Palm Bay. They're going to move to the beaches. Why? It's lucrative. That's where people are going to vacation. I'm just saying right now that leave it alone, let it grandfathered in, leave the beaches the way they are, because that's the way the people down there want it to be. That's all I have to say.
Mr. McGrath, thank you very much. Please come up. Your name and the city you live in. Oh, any else would like to speak, please? And don't be shy. We want to hear from you. So come on up. Whoever, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Poston. I've been
Sorry. It's got a time delay. We'll just do it naturally.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dan. What's your last name again?
Poston.
Poston, thank you.
Poston. I live in Melbourne Beach in the 5,000 block, and I think we should be entitled to do what we desire to do with our own property without other folks telling us what we can and can't do. A lot of people are retired, can use the income from the Airbnb rentals. I voted for the commissioner in my district because he supports it. I understand there's been a few problems. They need to be addressed. But for this gentleman here previously said that 99% of the people down in Floridana Beach were against it. Where are they? They're not at this meeting. I am. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay.
Okay, everybody's got their turn. All right, thanks.
Okay. Well, there's a few of them here.
There are.
Okay. And I don't think the few should dictate to what other people want to do. I think we should be allowed to choose. This is America. It's not Russia or China. And let's all work together to have a happy environment and I've been affected by this COVID. A lot of people have because they're not out working. And a lot of folks can use the extra income. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poston. And we're going to try this again. I'm going to hit start. And hopefully it doesn't do that. Thank you. Hi, what's your name and your city, please?
Ann Samuelson.
Sorry.
President of South Patrick Residents Association and residential rental owner. 15 years ago, citizens, including myself, helped craft this 2006 resort dwelling ordinance. We have lived under this protection and are grandfathered in to keep it as written. A balance was created at that time supporting different types of property ownership in different locations. Residential areas developed within the last 15 years, as you know, has been under this law, and HOAs have this law to back them up. But the proposed vacation rental matrix, which you have in your agenda packet, now shows vacation rentals allowed in all residential areas. This would devastate our stable neighborhoods, and impacts will, in fact, be far-reaching. A revised law will, in fact, end our protections, all of them, and Pandora's box will be open, ceding local control to the state and allowing a stream of transients where we live. This law was created to protect us against incompatible drop-in rentals in our neighborhoods, and these are actually commercial use of residential property. Our established residential areas cannot support hotels. The land use and the zoning were crafted only for residential use. There isn't sufficient parking, and these areas are not equipped to handle traffic from commercial activity. The tsunami of Airbnb, hedge funds, big corporation, out-of-state ownership will curtail affordable housing as well, which the county supports with our tax dollars. Residents are justifiably fearful of strangers who are here today and gone tomorrow. We're raising children, taking care of our seniors, and being involved in our communities. Legitimate concerns about crime, noise, partying, and increased calls to code enforcement and sheriff will, in fact, escalate county costs. Land use and zoning can enhance our welfare, or they can be made to work against us. I live near a vacation rental 4 houses down with no management, 14 people at a time, a destination wedding. And this rental actually operated during the COVID lockdown, which was state mandated. Airbnb does not care about our neighborhoods. The health, safety, and welfare of county residents must be paramount, and one of the important functions of government is to implement land use and zoning laws to support this end, not to diminish it, and our residential property rights. So please don't let vacation rentals endanger our stable communities. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you much. Thank you.
My name is Linda Lawton. I live in Floridana Beach, and I've lived here for 20 years. And I'm going to plead more passionately about what we face in Brevard County. We are a land that has hurricanes that come in, and in 2004, we had 4 of them, and it was my neighbors that helped me out. It was my neighbors that cleaned up. It was our neighbors that stood together and helped each other out. We need our neighbors. And to have strangers coming in and constantly moving in and out where we don't know anybody in our neighborhood. I've seen it happen in Orlando. The people that own those homes just live in their homes. They're not connected as a community. And if you do this, you're going to take something that was really important for America, and that's the family neighborhood where your kids could grow up running around, knowing their friends, and living their lives without we need community. That's what I'm saying, is the neighborhoods form something that's very, very important, and we need to protect it. And it's going away everywhere with gated communities, PUDs, but the old-fashioned community neighborhood where the kids grow up, they go to the schools, you know your people around you, it will destroy our way of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson.
Yeah, hi. My name is Paul Dranisco from Melbourne Beach, at the new Melbourne Beach area. And I know James McGrath, not in person. We're arch enemies when it comes to Democrat versus Republicans. He doesn't know me, but we've exchanged messages online. And I agree with him totally on this. This is our neighborhood. If we start to do the daily rentals, it's going to come to the beachside area. It's not going to go to Palm Bay or whatever. Kids, groups, or people are going to want short-term stays to stay and party on the beaches. And I have no problems, with partying, but if there are constant transients coming through, that causes problems for everybody. And I don't want to see our neighborhood, where I've lived now for 23 years, turn into an area where you can't be trusted to walking down the street and be comfortable, because that's what it's going to turn into. The second gentleman, who I don't know, he's got a point, and I would say, yeah, okay, let's take a vote. And I think he'd be disappointed with the results. And the third person, the lady, wow, that was great. And even the fourth lady, and I'm saying third and fourth lady because I didn't catch their names. I have a very short-term memory, I guess. But I agree with them wholeheartedly, and everything that they say is factual, it's sensible, it's logical. That is the way things are going to turn out, and we just don't want that. No, we want to keep home. No, we want to keep peaceful.
Now, you said something a minute ago that you think we should put to a vote. You think it should be a vote beyond where we are? Do you think it should be a county-wide vote to make a determination like this? Or yeah, okay, all right.
I just think if he thinks it would take a vote, then sure. I mean, I have no objections against making it a vote,
Very good.
But
Well,
it's local.
I understand.
It affects us there. It's not going to affect Palm Bay. Nobody's going to.
Well, maybe not.
Well, that's what. Yep, I'm sorry. I should have. I don't know what it takes to get a vote, but if it would.
Right, but the other point is, it isn't just there. People who have properties on both sides of the intercoastal will see this. People in the inland rural areas where you live out on acreage will see this. It's everywhere.
Right.
Maybe not so much Palm Bay, maybe in certain parts of Palm Bay, but this is well, in any event, thank you. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, and I want to be sure, too, that if I don't want to turn this into where the politics get out there and we have politicians out there saying a vote yes, because they'll get money from it, This is an issue that should remain unpoliticized. Educate the public, but don't politicize it, because I don't want my politicians to be influenced by the power of the dollar to start to push for this to change, And just like I said, I would prefer things stay just the way they are. And if it's going to concern our beach area, then it should be the people in our area who make up that determination.
Very good. Thank you very much, Paul, for speaking
Okay,
with us
thank
about
you.
this.
Good afternoon. I'm David Vreeland from South Shores Riverside, which is in South Melbourne Beach. I just have a couple of things to point out. South Melbourne beaches they have a number of bed and breakfasts. They have some small mom and pop motels. They have the ability to accommodate short-term renters. And then that whole stretch of beach is dotted by single-family homes, small developments like mine, which is an HOA, and maybe condo associations, what have you. But when you bring in short-term renters, they treat our community, our little neighborhood, like a resort. They don't clean up after themselves. Who's going to do the cleaning up? Is the county going to come out and provide that service? 4th of July, you ought to see what happens on the beach when there are a bunch of those around. Who's going to clean up all the fireworks left over on the beach and the boxes of fireworks? And it's a mess, and we can't. Our little retiree community, we're not going to do it. We're old. The other thing that I want you to be sure the county is aware of is that I think we're about halfway through the process, the 10-year plan to clean up the Indian River. And what this program will provide is a big increase in what damage we've already done to the river, and we don't want to turn that around and go the other way. And then there's the turtles to talk about, the 4th of July revelers, and we've made so much progress and made this area that we've been talking about such a wonderful place to live. We call it paradise. We can't see that going the other way, and I appreciate it if you advise the commissioners thusly.
Thank you, David.
Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Scott Coghill. I live at 181 Eden Avenue out in South Patrick Shores. That sits between the old K Park military housing and the Pineda Causeway. I'm a block and a half off of the ocean. I lived in that house since 1960, folks, 1960. And I've abided by all county regulations during this time frame. I live on a street that's 18 feet wide from curb to curb. And just recently we had a VRBO that was created illegally according to the Brevard County Zoning Commission. I've now filed a legal complaint with the Brevard County Planning and Zoning and Code Enforcement Division. This gentleman's not paying taxes on that rental. This gentleman is taking a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and he's got 6, 8, 10 people staying in it, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars parked. I just had to pay $1,000 to resod part of my front yard where a 4-wheel drive dug it up. And for the people that are in here that are for Airbnbs and the use, the second gentleman, which I respect very much for how he feels, I'd like to remind him that he chose to produce or buy his property knowing what the covenants were, unless he's a prior owner to 2005, 2006. I happen to also own property in North Carolina and in Summerville, South Carolina. This property is in a gated community. This property has expensive HOA fees. And I knew that when I bought that property. And I truly believe, had I not wanted to abide by that, I would not have invested in that property. For those of you that are not interested in putting this before the voters, I warn you that by not doing so, you are actually allowing a handful of elected officials to decide the future of your property going forward. And as it was stated, once Pandora's box is opened up, anything can be done. And I caution this board to make the recommendation to the full council. I caution every taxpayer, of which I paid $3,200 for a little 1,200 square foot house in Satellite Beach, Florida, to make sure that you hold your government accountable and make sure that people turn out the vote. Because the only way county council is going to understand how we feel and what we feel is to turn out in numbers. The gentleman that talked twice, or second, is 100% correct. If people don't come out, council knows exactly nothing about what they truly want. So I applaud those of you that came today, and thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Coghill.
Hello, my name's Alex Kovras, and I live on Merritt Island. And I'm here to implore you, please do not change the zoning. My wife and I happen to live, first of all, we served in Department of Defense for 34 years, and we actively sought a small community, a residential area, so we can relocate to spend the rest of our lives in. And we think we found that in Merritt Island until our next door neighbor decided to move out and turn the place into an Airbnb. We have called the Sheriff's Department for music playing up until 5 o'clock in the morning where we couldn't even sleep. We just had a birthday party with about 25 people at it. Cars everywhere, up and down the street. A lot of retirees, just about all people are retired in my little community. We just don't want that to happen, right? We didn't choose the house so we could live next to a hotel, right? We don't feel safe. A lady brought in 5 dogs, and stayed there for a week. I couldn't even let my little dog outside. They were vicious, right? I didn't pay that kind of money, and I didn't make that sacrifice in my whole life to move into something like that, right? I implore you guys, just think about it. If it was you living next door to a hotel like this, cursing and carrying on, my God, the language that these people use, they don't care. They're only there for a couple days. Trash is everywhere. Please, I implore you, don't let them change what we have. Otherwise, for some of us, we'll wind up moving and finding another place to live, and not Merritt Island. And we love it here, so thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Hello. My name is Christy Richardson. I live on Merritt Island as well. And I actually researched running Airbnb for my sister-in-law, who has a vacation home down here. And nowhere did I ever find this ordinance. Even talking to the tax collector, she actually led me right to where I could apply for a license legally through the state. I applied for that. I made sure I had a tax ID number. I made sure everything was proper before I even started. It wasn't until I started talking to some of my neighbors, which as an Airbnb host, I went through my neighborhood and made sure every single neighbor had my phone number. We live 5 minutes down the road. I can be there in 5 minutes. If there's any problem whatsoever, I would come down, and basically they sign a rental agreement, and the minute they sign that, they're saying that they will not party. They will abide by the quiet rules of the neighborhood, and that they do not have dogs, smoking, all that. Basically, what I'm saying is there's another side to this Airbnb. I have had wonderful guests. Unfortunately, the second guest we had was a baseball team that they had a good time during the day, but guess what? All of my neighbors said they shut it down by 9 o'clock. They were playing music, they were jumping in the canal, which I would never do, but hey, go ahead. I mean, the way I look at it is, as an Airbnb, we have to market our homes all the time. So therefore, we are constantly keeping our home up. In fact, we have had neighbors tell us our home has never looked so nice. And I just feel, I kind of wanted to just read a little bit of one of the guests that stayed. I wanted you to understand that they're not all partiers. They don't bring drugs in. Your neighbor's girlfriend's boyfriend or your neighbor's daughter's boyfriend could bring drugs into the neighborhood. They could be using bad language. I have neighbors that have junky front yards. I have a nicer front yard. Our Airbnb has a nicer front yard than them. And that's why I just want people to see the other side of Airbnbs, that if it is regulated and if you have proper management, it is really not, you're not bringing strangers in. We do not let people stay less than 4 days. So it's not like they're coming in for one night to party. And really, at $180 a night, plus $150 cleaning fee, plus taxes, which we do pay taxes and county fees. Airbnb actually takes that before we even see any money, and they pay it. I do feel that that is a good revenue for, I assume the county comes back with some of it. I know a lot of it goes to the state, but it is a good revenue for the state of Florida. But one of the girls that stayed, a family of 2, brought her parents, who their grandparents live just 2 miles down the road from where our Airbnb was, off of North Banana River Drive, and her 9-month-old baby. She said, "Oh my goodness, this house is so absolutely perfect, especially for families. Christy heard I was bringing out the 10-month-old, and we made sure that we had a pack and play. The house was set up perfect. It's so perfect that, you know, we want to build the house just the same. It's meticulously clean, like run a white glove over any surface, come back clean." Basically, she goes on to say we got to see a space shuttle outside the front lawn. It was a blessing to them to be able to afford to stay next to their parents. And as people say, vacation, not party, relax by a pool. They wanted to stay away from all of the craziness of downtown Cocoa Beach and stuff. And what I'm saying is look at the other side. And I don't know how many of these people today have stayed in an Airbnb. Every time I've stayed in an Airbnb, I didn't go to party. I went there because I wanted a nice, comfortable, home-like place that I could stay away from the crowds. And that, I think, for Merritt Island especially, that is what people are looking for. I'm not saying everybody, and I understand it happens. That is why we need regulations. But once again, like the second gentleman, if you want regulation, or if you want rules in your neighborhood, buy into an HOA. Buy a house in an HOA that has rules. And I'm sorry, but there are residents and there are long-term renters that are trashier than my Airbnb customers ever have been. Okay, and I do feel, once again, we should be able to do what we do with what we want with our property. Being regulated, I totally understand. It should be regulated, and anyway, and that's about all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christy, for your time. Anybody else, please come.
Hi, my name is Noelle Williams, and I live in Floridana Beach, which is the south area. And I love Airbnbs, but not in my backyard. So if they all go away, so be it. Because I like to use them for what this lady was talking about. But I wanted to share with you what I've seen personally in Anna Maria Island, which is directly across the state from us. My family lives there. They have a business that's been there forever, the West Coast Surf Shop. And what happened, that was a great little town in the 60s. All the kids that went to the shop, they knew, you watched them grow up, you knew everybody. And over the years, what happened was the homes, which were kind of like the homes you see in Floridana, basic, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes, they started selling. And they turned them into, they didn't keep them as little Airbnbs for themselves. They tore them down and built monstrosity homes that they could have like 10 bedrooms in and build them. So as a consequence, the elementary school there, Anna Maria Elementary, had to bring kids in from outside because there were not enough families with children for the school. And also people with businesses had a hard time getting employees because, well, it's they have a drawbridge, but it's so much time to get onto the island if you get a job there, like at a restaurant or anything like that. And there's no affordable housing for people to live there. So in the old days, you'd rent a duplex and you could work there and live there and have a great time. But that's all gone. So all the cute little quaint cottages that we have on Delaspine and some of the streets in Floridana Beach, they're going to be torn down. They should be historic. And there will be monstrosity homes that cover the whole lot. Which, if you want to sell your place, it's a great way to make money because it's what happened to my mom and dad's house. Nobody wanted to buy it to just, have a house. Everything there gets knocked down and total, disgusting mansion put there. So it hurts the businesses trying to have employees, the schools. It's not a family. It's really sad. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Anybody else? Don't be shy. You won't be hurt if you don't get up.
Howdy.
Hello.
My name is Mark Shansis. I live in Brevard now for 23 years. I moved here for the safe neighborhoods. I moved away from the chaos in Miami that I grew up in, that used to be like this, and then you couldn't fish anymore, and you couldn't swim anymore, and you couldn't drive your car anymore. We moved here for the same reason that you are here, and the people from all over the country are coming here, especially after we've been in magazines all over the country and in newspapers on this is the best family town, one of the 10 best family towns to live in the entire United States. And the reason is, the main reason is, and I get a chill when I say this, is that the contractors, the builders, the developers created that. In 2006, when this issue of the resort dwelling first came in, when there was a boom in real estate, it was this huge group of people that got together, a lot of stakeholders, including developers and builders and contractors, who said, hey, wait a minute, what do we do here? How do we protect our neighborhoods? And they passed a resort dwelling ordinance. The resort dwelling ordinance allows you with the CUP to go ahead and get a resort dwelling, which is now called vacation rentals, in different areas. It allows certain designated areas for you to go ahead and allow this. There's actually, in addition to the areas that are allowed so people can make extra money by meeting certain conditions, there is a specific addition called transient commercial development activities, which allows activities for intended to serve the needs of overnight visitor, which would be located in community commercial CC land use designations. This was all done over a 2-year period and was very fair and even-handed for all of the stakeholders. So now we roll forward to 2011, and thank heaven we did that, because in 2011, the state went on a move to take away all local rule. One of the things they were doing was they decided, okay, we're going to make statewide vacation rentals. Well, we have an exemption, okay? It's like a tax exemption. Would you give it up? It's like a garage jail free card in Monopoly. Would you give it to someone else? If you give it up, it can't get gotten back. It's over, okay? And if you make even the slightest changes to this ordinance, even though a county attorney might tell you that's not true, or another attorney might tell you it's not true, as soon as you make a change, then it becomes a question legally, was it a significant change? Okay? Now, the information that you've received says that certain, if you look at the top of the certain zoning classifications. Well, there's 40 listed. 3 are institutional. Okay? 14 already allow vacation rentals. The remainder is what we're talking about. So it's not certain zoning classifications, it's all zoning classifications. 100% of that list is going to be reclassified or already has been classified. So then the question comes back down to the woman who's talking to you about, it's about from the heart. Is this something you would want to allow next to you? If it can go next to you, they can go through the process of the CUP. They can go, if they were here prior to 2006 and had a vacation rental, they could have applied to be grandfathered in. That was part of the whole negotiation that took place back then. It took 2 years to put that together. I don't know if you were here when that happened, okay, if you remember it, but it was a real huge group of stakeholders that got together. It was Fish and Wildlife, it was Marine Council, it was Sea Turtle Conservancy, okay, from the environmental side. It was St. John's River Management, it was the DCA, it was everybody. All got together in all the neighborhoods, and they went ahead and they gave complete notification to everybody, okay? You know, it's funny, the way the statutes read. If I want to change one lot, I have to notify everybody around. But if I want to change the whole county, I don't have to notify anybody. If you read our statutes, that's another thing we have to fix, okay? You not only should not allow this, okay, but you should go in and you should start talking about what are the things that allow neighborhoods to be destroyed right now, okay? This gentleman who talks about his vacation rental, okay, hey, if you moved here after the law was there, okay, then you knew the law was there. You could have read it, all right? Now do you have a hardship? Do we give people hardships so that they can make money? Is that what a hardship is defined as? No, it's not, right? It's not. It's defined as, I didn't do it to make it happen to me, and now it's happened to me, okay? So bottom line, it's about, would you allow this to happen in your neighborhood? would you allow this to happen in the house next door to you? Not only next door to you, but the friends of yours. And do the contractors and builders who developed 90,000 properties in the last 15 years because of the 2006 ordinance for these resort dwellings, so it wouldn't destroy neighborhoods, want to have the legacy that they went ahead and they developed all these jobs and they developed all this economics and everybody made a living at it, and now with one hand they give you that neighborhood and with the other now they're going to take it away. Does it make sense to you? Is it something that you would want for yourself, for your family and your friend? It's that kind of decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you.
I'm Cheryl Hernandez. I live in Melbourne Shores, which is down in the South Beaches at 122 Pelican Drive. I'm just going to read what I have because it's easier than talking off the top of my head. I'm asking you to vote against the proposed changes to the Brevard zoning regulations. A few requests for the ability to have short-term rentals does not constitute the need for a zoning regulation change that will affect all of our lifestyles for decades to come. Brevard County put a lot of time and research into developing our current zoning regulations to protect our residential neighborhoods. We purchased here because of the quiet residential family neighborhood, low rental ratio, and limits on future development. Short-term rentals will change all of that by increasing traffic and street parking, noise and loud parties, trash and garbage, transients with no tie to the community or concern for the environment, or neighbors and crime, such as theft and vandalism. As other communities have experienced around the country and the state, homeowners eventually moved out as the influx of tourists with no tie to the community became too much to deal with. There is no oversight, as there are many operating illegally within Brevard County now, and also code enforcement only works from 8 to 5 during the week. They're not there at night and on weekends, so by the time they come to investigate a complaint, the parties who were the issue are gone, and then trying to find the owners to deal with them, then you give a citation, there's amount of time. So virtually there's no oversight that's enforceable. The tourist tax collection is not a guarantee, as Palm Beach discovered when they lost their lawsuit to collect from Airbnb and VRBO. The responsibility was placed on the owners who did not comply and pay, which is one reason the suit was filed. I believe this change is not in the best interest of the community at large. Please vote no on these changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez.
People who couldn't make it because of the virus today, there's 400
Yeah.
people that signed
Yeah, you can give that to Jennifer Jones. And I think most of us here all read, not only did we read what you wrote in there, I know I personally went on and I saw the signs and I read what those signs were referring to down Melbourne Beach and other places as well. Please come up.
I made copies of what I have outlined here. I'll just give you one done, if that's okay.
Yeah, if you
Do
like,
you want
sure,
them now?
yeah.
So,
What was your name?
my name is Tracy Warren, and I live also in South Beaches, but I grew up in Brevard County. I've been here my whole life. I've lived in all these lovely areas like Lake Washington, Grant, Valcaria, West Cocoa County areas. And in my years living in South Beaches, I've experienced the problems personally with the vacation rentals. They are illegal in our zoning, but people, you know, they do it. Code compliance is not staffed or equipped to deal with it. They never have been.
Do you deal with Brevard County code compliance, or do they deal with, like, say, I don't know how far City of Melbourne's code compliance?
Brevard County.
Brevard County? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, county.
Okay, thank you.
And then also with the sheriff, you know, because you're in the middle of the night and these things are occurring, usually after hours, the worst of it. Having the sheriffs, you're going to need additional staff. I keep seeing things where the staff feels like there's not going to be any financial impact. And I believe there will be, because you're going to need to hire more staff to deal with it. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the administrative policies of the future land use element. establishes the expertise of staff with regarding to zoning land use issues and the set forth criteria when considering a rezoning action or a request for a CUP. I feel that these are so important, and I think what we're doing here is we are rezoning an entire county, or we are looking at allowing a conditional use permit activity throughout the county. So all of these administrative policies, I believe, should be looked at very carefully, as that is the guide that is supposed to be taken for a change in use in zoning. Administrative 1 says, at a minimum, to consider the proposed uses have hours of operation, lighting, odor, noise levels, traffic, site activity that would significantly diminish the enjoyment of safety or the quality of life of existing neighbors. Will it cause a material reduction in values? Well, that remains to be seen. I know a lot of people who lived in Osceola County are getting out of there because their quality of life has been diminished, and the traffic, what used to be a 10-minute drive is now an hour. Is that where we want to go? I would just ask that these administrative policies be looked at a little more carefully, because there are specific things that need to be looked at. Coastal management element, conservation element, potable water element, sanitary sewer septic, solid waste, and so on. Natural wetlands, water bodies, habitat for listed species, turtles, fish, birds, our lagoon, which we're trying to save. The visitors are on vacation. They don't care. I have personally seen these visitors dumping beer bottles and beer cans in the river. I've seen them leaving trash on the beaches, having fires on the beach during nesting season, and we're not protecting what we're supposed to be protecting here. And lastly, if it has to be some changes made, we really should protect our residential lifestyle in the residential zoning classification. Should be protected.
Ms. Warren, do you have any questions? Mr. Hawkins, is there anything that you can really indicate, since you oversee a lot of this information that she spoke about or have been part of its creation, what kind of protections will the county do to try to keep the things she spoke about protected? The quality of the lagoon, the rivers, the streets, the ocean, the turtles, and all the laws and regulations as the county has that they exist.
So there's probably a lot more than I would be able to list, here today. There's several. One of the things that the county has done is they implemented the sales tax to clean up the river, and they're moving forward with all kinds of projects for that. We've implemented a septic tank, new septic tank requirements where you have enhanced septic tanks if you're within certain feet of the rivers or the ocean. And that, so there's several things that they're looking at doing and trying to protect that water quality and enhance, the current environmental status of our county. One of the things that she did mention as well is code enforcement. As you all know, our code enforcement is reactive. We are not a proactive agency. So we have to get a complaint and we respond to the complaints. As the nature of some of the complaints related to the vacation rentals and the resort dwellings is they don't happen in the time frame that we can respond to. By that, I mean, if you have a party and it's at 3 o'clock in the morning, the complaint comes in, we may send someone out there. Probably won't be the next day, the day after the event is over, you know. So they have to rely on the sheriff, and the sheriff, you know, will go out and look into those complaints. So it's just there's layers to it. Code enforcement may not be the most effective from a noise complaint standpoint, where it's a single event. But we do have code enforcement where we look at many of these. I think one of the speakers earlier mentioned that she's complained several times to our department, and we look at where they advertise and how they're being advertised, and we've been very successful at getting those establishments into compliance.
So you've worked, and I know this because the reason I spoke to him about this, I've been up here over 12 years, I certainly think, on this board, and the county has taken great steps to do things well, and nobody wants to see turtles seeing bonfires. None of us want that as well. So thank you very much. Thank
Yes,
you.
but I'm just going to comment on that comment.
Please, go ahead.
And if it's okay, that what we have been working on in the past several years to protect this environment and this area is going to be substantially diminished with this kind of activity. So I would consider that we're going to be going backwards with this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Warren.
Should I just give this?
Yeah, go ahead and give Jennifer a maroon sweater right over there. Anybody else? Come up, please.
You can tell what I'm here about.
Sea turtle lady. There you go.
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. And I want to talk about a couple things. What we have now is working. As many people said, we're grandfathered in. So it would be great to keep what we have and not open Pandora's box. I am aware of a number of houses in my neighborhood which are operating as Airbnbs, and they have, 4 or 6 cars in the front yard. I want you to think also about what hasn't been mentioned about South Beach's sewage plant, which is presently operating at 86% occupancy. You start packing more people in more houses, that's more effluent. And what happened after Irma is we had 22 million gallons of sewage in the lagoon, because when you have more people, it's more effluent. That plant is basically at near capacity right now. So we have old sewage pipes that have water, I&I, infiltration, influx and infiltration into them when it rains. So when it rains, like we've had a lot of rain lately, there's more there, they get to be at capacity. So we also have Pineda Causeway from a concurrency standpoint. FDOT did a study that in the event of a hurricane, as it is right now, we cannot evacuate the 32937 area in a fast-moving or a hurricane that moves direction. There's not enough capacity to get everybody off the barrier island. So packing more people on the barrier island is not a good idea. But also a couple other things. We purchased 2 homes, 2009, 2010, back-to-back homes. My father, who will be 85 in January, lives in one. Neighbor 2 doors down just recently sold their house to be an Airbnb, not allowed. Think about that neighborhood has a lot of elderly people. It has a lot of veterans who have post-traumatic stress syndrome, have needs as well, and it has an impact on a very high number of veterans in the community. I also want to say is when I get up, you see the kids biking, skateboarding, walking to school, often without a parent. When you have Airbnbs, you have an opportunity for sexual predators to come into a neighborhood. It is a family-oriented community, 2 doors down from me. I have toddlers 2 doors down from me. I have toddlers in the house next to me. And the house on the left is an 85-year-old woman. You know, this is a family-oriented community. And as one person said, in the event of a hurricane, we're all helping each other. We're all reporting to each other how our houses are, how they made out in the hurricane. Where, you know, neighbors are out with their chainsaws helping each other. What was also told to me is during COVID, with the some of them operating not legally, is great amounts of trash. A lot of the reports that for the trash not picked up has been from Airbnbs operating, at the end of the weekend, or the time they're there, putting the trash out by the road. And then the neighbors are reporting it, but they can't fill in the form because it's not their home. And the county commissioner's office looking up the reports coming in, and it turns out it's people who live out of state that are renting the home. And then one other thing I just want to put, I find the timing of this very curious. I live on the dump that got the FUD's eligibility. In my yard is, you may be aware, had the mortar shell and part of an oil barrel with oil in it that would have been mixed with TCE and chemicals and asbestos. And it was underneath of our community is a dump that got the formerly used defense eligibility a year ago. And I just question, is this driven by their influence here at this time because of the Air Force influence to say, well, if this is a transient community, we don't have to clean it up? And then the last thing I want to bring up is about the sea turtles. We are one of the most important sea turtle nesting areas in the world. And on Brevard beaches, in the area I live in, 32937, we have the second highest number of endangered green sea turtles, second only to Archie Carr, which is down in South Beaches area. My neighbors and myself, I'll see them on the beach. We're out there picking up the microplastics and the plastics, which right now, you know, there's a whole bunch of turtles that have just been rescued, and they're waiting to see what they poop out in terms of plastic. Plastic affects them a lot. Our community goes down to the beach. I can't tell you how many people I see picking up plastic and picking up the garbage off the beach on a daily basis. We care about our environment, not just about the community and our neighbors. We care about the environment. And just one last thing, since the lagoon has been talked about a lot. You have 46% of the seagrasses declined in the lagoon. You have PV virus 60% higher, probably due to contamination, certainly according to UCF, and probably due to the PFAS that has been draining into the lagoon for decades, which is an endocrine disruptor. So you have a decline of the lagoon. And there's an inshore reef that goes along. That's why the endangered green sea turtle lives on that reef. It grows up on that reef. That's why our area has such a high sea turtle nesting area. It's why it's so critically important. And with the decline of the lagoon, those reefs and that environment for the survival of an endangered and threatened species become all the more important. And so we take care of it as a community. We're stewards of that. People who come and stay at resort dwellings aren't going to care. There is places for them on east of A1A and in certain places allocated. It's fair right now the way it is. The way it is right now, there's allocated areas for that type of business. But you don't need to impact the areas of the family-oriented communities where we have young children growing up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Anyone else?
Good afternoon. My name is Sue Kovras, and my husband was up and talked earlier.
Yes.
I agree with Christy in a way. I've seen Christy's Airbnb, and it is beautiful. It's in a beautiful neighborhood. But unfortunately, in our neighborhood, we have mostly retirees. We're retired ourselves. We had our neighbors next door who are younger buy a sailboat and decide to leave the country and turn their home into an Airbnb. When they did, the first people that they allowed to come was from Georgia. They brought 30 people into a 4-bedroom house to have a party for a week. We called the sheriff's department because the music went on till late at night. Our other neighbors 3 houses down thought we were having a party. They complained to us the next day. We said, it wasn't us. Anyway, unfortunately with our situation, we cannot contact the owners and complained to them. And the few times that we have, they said, well, we're out of the country, there's nothing we can do. So Airbnb does not care about us. They don't care about our neighborhood. They don't care about the 20, 30 cars being parked on our little street, and we're on a cul-de-sac. And one of our elderly women got up one morning, and there were 3 cars parked in her driveway. She could not get out to go to church because she was blocked in from the Airbnb. Also, it's like my husband said, they come, they're allowed to have dogs. We have a small dog. We have a small fence. The dogs want to come over the fence to get to our little dog, who, by the way, doesn't bark, doesn't growl at anybody, is very friendly. So it's not fair that we're not allowed to let our dog out in her own yard because we fear for her life, for the people next door. We've had people sitting on their dock until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, drinking, cursing, screaming at each other. We can't sleep. The neighbors can't sleep. That's not fair either. If you want to have an Airbnb, I agree with Christy, they have rules. No one under 30 years old and families only, and only a certain amount of people. Unfortunately for us, our owners don't care. They're out of the country. They rent to anybody. In the past 4 months, that home has been rented out 2 nights, empty 1 night. 3 nights, empty 1 night. They're coming and going and coming and going. What happened to COVID? We weren't supposed to have any parties, but yet that place is rented out constantly all the time. I am in process now with code enforcement. There is a hearing coming up. I've been working with a gentleman named Denny Long, and we're going to try to have the place shut down because of the noise and the destruction that's going on over there.
So Sue, you brought something up, and I want to say this to all of you. I have unrelated to this, I have a neighbor that's problematic and has 20 or 30 cars at a time that shows up, and it just, the trash cans overfill, and I live in the woods of Lake Washington, and it all ends up in a canal and goes down. They're nice enough people, they really are, nothing against them. But at the end of the day, you get a little thing for your phone, it's an app, it's timestamp, camera app, and you take that and you take pictures when code enforcement isn't there, and it's time-stamped and it's evidence, and that can be submitted to the code enforcement officers, and I know this because I've done it for the city of Melbourne with where I live. Okay. So keep those pictures, save them, send them off to your code enforcement people. And it is reactive, as Ms. Hawkins said. If you have a problem with somebody, you call code enforcement, they go out, they're gone, but the timestamp's going to say something, and if you don't say nothing, nobody's going to do anything anyways. So thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Okay, board, should we bring this back and have any more conversations? Do we have anybody else? We'd love to hear from you. Sure.
Taking the pictures. So when we were experienced this problem with one of our neighbors, we called code enforcement because it's not a legal
Ma'am,
use.
can you wait till you get to the microphone?
Go ahead and say everything you just said again.
Do the minutes.
I was just saying that when we've experienced this with some of our neighbors in the past, it's not a legal use in our neighborhood. We don't have HOA rules, but we do go by the county code. And so when we called to complain, we were told, you know, take pictures, do whatever, but there's no way for us to enforce this. Mm-hmm. This is what we were told by code enforcement. We cannot enforce it. We can't prove it. We can't keep up with it. Mm-hmm. What you guys are doing is putting in place something. You're making us be the police of our neighbors. Mm-hmm. We moved to a residential area. And I'm going to go back to the code, the administrative policies again, mm-hmm. if I can find it, that says, the character of the neighborhood area shall be a factor in consideration whenever a rezoning or application involving a specific proposed use. The character must be not materially or adversely affect. you cannot incorporate a zoning activity into a residential area that significantly diminishes the enjoyment and the safety and the quality of life in the existing neighborhoods. I just want to reiterate that. That is what's happening. Keep it out of the residential neighborhoods.
Well, first off, nobody's voted yet, and when we do, whatever happens here moves forward along with the local planning agency and goes to the commissioners. And again, I remind you, please show up at all those points. But don't stop being proactive with complaining to code enforcement. Whoever said that, you know, there's plenty of other people to talk to at the county. You've got to come up here if you're going to speak.
Okay.
And this isn't about code enforcement here. I'm just saying that's one of your avenues, you know.
Let me tell you three things, first of all. Number one, I spoke to code enforcement, who told me specifically, a person told me that 2 to 3 times a month they go just to Barefoot Bay for complaints, okay, about vacation rentals, illegal vacation rentals. In the data that you have, it's on the page here somewhere, it says that they get about 1 complaint a month for vacation rentals in the whole county. And I filed a public records request for all of the complaints that they've had for the last 6 months, and they sent me back something and said, I'm sorry, we don't categorize complaints under vacation rentals or resort buildings. So they don't even keep
What, did you
track
get
of
all the complaints and go through them?
They go through them, but they don't categorize.
I mean,
So they couldn't give me a list of all the
Okay.
ones that, they couldn't give me a list
All
of
right.
complaints.
That's pretty huge.
Okay?
Yeah.
So they say on the one hand they can't give you a list of complaints, then they tell you that there's only 1 in the whole county, and then I call and speak to someone, and they say there was 2 to 3 a month in one little neighborhood. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
I don't know what you want to
that.
make of that.
But again, I remind you, because I've spent 12 years on a code enforcement board as well, people don't get anything done if you don't call about it. Anybody else? Well, if you, please come up here. James, right? Yeah.
She had mentioned, the lady that supports Airbnbs had mentioned about taxes. And I heard it by Cheryl Hernandez also said that the Palm Beach lost the battle. They wanted the Airbnbs to collect the taxes for them. They lost the battle and went to the Florida Supreme Court. This is recently. Florida Supreme Court said, no, it's not Airbnb's job to collect taxes. It's the owners to send the taxes to the county. Do you really believe how many people that are making money in Airbnbs are going to give it to the county? Unless, I mean, come on.
I'm on that page.
It's greed. That's what it's all about. That's all I wanted to mention.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else like to come speak to us? Please do. Don't be shy. Please come up. The more of you speak, the more that the commissioners are going to hear. Just remember that. And as a reminder, we're here because commissioners put us here to hear you.
Okay, we probably would
What was your
have to-
name?
My name is Joan Vaughn. I live at 265 Pelican Drive in Melbourne Shores, and my husband and I have been there for 35 years.
Thank you, Joan.
We live in a family community, and like was mentioned by some of these people, the neighbors are almost like an extended family. We care about each other. This is something we're losing in America. We need to treasure it. We need to treasure this. And the only reason this isn't filled and the parking lot, we're going to try to fill it, is because of COVID. There'd be thousands of people. If you want an Airbnb because you want to make money, there's areas where you can do that. Don't destroy our homes. Don't destroy our families and our extended families. Communities in America are dying. Don't kill us, okay? Don't let that happen.
Do you, well, hold on, Joan. Do you think that the county should have a referendum vote on this subject matter?
I think if enough people show up on December 8th, and I really feel there'll be thousands here, you'll see how many people don't want this. And if you can take our vote for our community, because we're not talking about all of Florida. There's parts of Florida that
Well,
are
our county I referred to, not the
our
amount of
county.
Florida.
There's probably parts of the county that already have lost what we have that's so precious, okay, and so priceless. So you want a B&B there, go there, because they've lost it. Don't let us lose what we have. I've been here since I was 29 years old. I'm now 65 years old. This is home. This is beautiful. You know, don't take it away from us.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
And another thing. Hello again.
The only thing I wanted to say is that this was South Patrick Residents Association that brought this to the forefront in 2005. And I personally worked with the staff, and I think Robin Sabrino DeFabio was there at the time, and with the commissioners to hammer out something that was fair, that allowed areas to have resort dwellings because there are property rights of different they're different for different entities. And I've been, and I hate to say how long, my husband and I bought our first residential rental. It was a duplex in 1973. So I've owned property and managed property. We're not flippers or anything else. We own quite a few properties in the county. And I would never drop a resort dwelling in a stable community. Not only is it illegal, because I would make sure about the law, and I'm sorry that I know Lisa Cullen, and I have talked with her about this, and she is the tax collector, and she has indicated, I asked her, I said, Lisa, do you check out these locations when people come to you for a license and then to pay the tourist tax? And she said, yes, but I'm beginning to wonder if there shouldn't be a better mechanism between planning and development and the Constitutional Office of Tax Collector to make sure, and especially now, and the person was correct, that the Florida Supreme Court said Airbnb doesn't own these properties. They don't have to collect. So what does Airbnb do? Whatever Airbnb wants to do. These people over here obviously are running a decent establishment. I'm going to tell you that's probably 1% of the population of the different resort dwellings, and I've seen 5 or 6 in our subdivision. And I mean, we were built in 1967. Again, we are not set up to have 10 cars and the conditions that would be coming with these commercial deals. But the whole thing is, when you buy property, you cannot expect just to do whatever you want with it. You know that. You have to go through the proper lawful process. And again, I say, with the properties that we own, I would never just drop in a resort dwelling and help to unsettle a neighborhood.
Well, I think before you go away,
Yes.
I think most people had a belief that when they bought their properties that the zoning values would remain with those properties.
That is correct.
And I think that's important.
That is correct. And as we saw, when we first moved there, we thought that we were protected against something like a resort dwelling. We didn't even know what that was at the time. And so when we found out that people were buying these properties, and most of them are not locally managed, there's no place to go, even though it's one of the conditions that's required in the code at this point in time. You can't park on the street. You have to have local management. These things are not happening. No. So there is no fallback for the people that are getting shafted in their own communities. And I think that's a very important point. And any of the changes would negate any kind of special treatment for these entities. So, and the state wants to change the definition to say they're not commercial properties. By their functional use, they are in fact commercial properties. They're required to have a license and they're required to pay a tax. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to...
Well, hold on, and you're not missing entirely the fact that...
You saw my objections.
Well, I read all that
there.
stuff too, but the bottom line is structures are designed for so many people. When that is exceeded,
That's right.
That's a danger for people in fires, okay? And in commercial buildings, fires are prevented by sprinklers and fire department visits to see how many fire extinguishers are there. Those things aren't happening in illegal bed and breakfasts, Airbnbs, if you will. There are greater laws there, and
That's
I think
true.
that there are parts of the country that have developed those that created more protections for the people who stay in them. But again, that's not where we're at right now. We're in a position to tell the commissioners, these three of us, to tell the commissioners your feelings, and that's why we want to hear this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Coghill again from out in South Patrick Shores. I wanted to echo what Ann just mentioned. When I made my complaint to code enforcement a couple of days ago, the lady was not, I won't say that she wasn't helpful, but she didn't give me much hope that code enforcement would be out there for at least 2 or 3 weeks. If in fact they can't get there in 2 or 3 weeks, and guys, I understand that. I really do. I lived and breathed as a first responder for years, and I spent 24 years in the military flying cargo airplanes. But having said all that, I can tell you now that if in fact you create this Pandora's box of Airbnbs, and no one's using the word VRBO, and that's my issue, is the guy is running a VRBO, and the point is, if our code enforcement can't manage to get to the few that are being run illegally now, God forbid us what's going to happen when they make it legal. And again, I see some of you shaking your head that you don't want a referendum on this. I'm telling you, at least then the people would make the decision versus a handful of publicly elected officials. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
One really quick comment about this, Cheryl Hernandez again. Just one really quick comment about the number of people that are or are not here today. COVID is a really big concern for a lot of us. And I know the majority of my neighborhood, people would like to be here, but they don't trust it. They're saving their exposure to come on December 8th when the commissioners are here. But I will tell you that no daily rentals, we have been promoting this from a week before the election is when we first discovered that this was going on. Mark gave in a list of petition names. There were 499 on that. We changed our sites. We have another survey questionnaire that has 358 names and comments. There's another petition online that now has 122 signatures and comments. That's only been a couple of days that that's been up. On Facebook, we've had over 4,300 people reach out to us on this issue saying, how can we help? What can we do to stop this? So, and on Facebook, we have 300 page group followers. It's not just that there's only this many people that are interested. COVID is a really big risk and it's a really big scare. And the higher the percentage of testing positive goes up, it makes it a really big decision. Do I want to come here and fight for my community and chance exposing myself and possibly lose my life? Because that is a real big risk for a lot of people here. So I just want to make that clear.
people to email their commissioners.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing that says pay attention like a flooded email box, right?
Yes, that's what we're doing. We actually have the links on the website to encourage everybody and make it easy for them to do.
Very
But
good.
thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Just Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. Just an added comment. I attend a lot of county commissioners meetings, and there was a meeting, speaking about baseball teams, there was a meeting about that agreement that they don't pay, I don't remember all the specifics, that they don't pay money because they're supposed to be staying in hotels. And the commission was lamenting because they're staying in Airbnbs, they're not staying in the hotels that generates the bed tax, which is supposed to generate the money, so that organization is getting the benefit. So they don't have actually any tracking mechanism. So that's a discussion maybe you want to take back to the commissioners as well, is how does this affect the tourism industry and what they're trying to do with the bed tax? And then also you have a lot of hotels going in being built right now. So there's a bigger picture here with the tourism industry that I think that needs to be coordinated with what they're doing. How are you going to impact these big hotels that are just been built or being built? And taking away because their business as well.
Well, Sandy, you brought up something important. I think that we all got to think about it. I think Brevard County has a very ample group of buildings in commercial levels to house anybody from any state that comes here. But in this time of COVID, it would seem to me that some of these big property owners would be here saying, hey, no, that's not a fair way of business since we have big empty hotels. Right, so I think it's important to know.
They may not know about it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the families know about it because of some advocacy on Facebook.
For sure, but look, from Cocoa Beach all the way down to Sebastian Inlet, there is a whole sprinkling of small motels and hotels and little places, cute, quaint places to go to, and bigger places. So there's a lot of that around here. I don't know that Brevard County needs to spring out to this, but it's a question was asked of the commissioners, and
Yeah.
that's why we're here.
Do you know that the hotel industry is one of the industries most impacted by COVID? A lot of the hotel companies will be going out of business.
Right, look
So,
around
I
the
mean,
county.
should we be looking at helping those businesses adapt during COVID so that we don't have more businesses here go out of business?
Look around the county. There's empty businesses everywhere. Little places we all once knew, where you got a little down in the Atlantic where you went over and got a freezy thing. They're done. They're gone all over the place. So, please.
Jack Cleverman. I live on 133 Pelican Drive, Melbourne Shores, South Beach. And there's several of them in our neighborhood. And they had one last year that had about 50 cars come to the house. They were parked all over the neighborhood. They were having a big party. Well, we called the sheriff on them. They finally cleared everybody out. Then we had another one with a domestic violence right down the street. My street alone, we have about 14 young children. We don't know who these people are. And it bothers me, And we had one lady that rented an Airbnb out, and she turned around and was renting the rooms out. And the one house that had a party, there was about 5-6 cars there. I called code enforcement, and on the mailbox, she had a right address on one side and another address, 4 numbers on the other side. And there's only 3 numbers in the whole neighborhood, except on the Riverside Drive there. And I don't say, I asked, he couldn't find it, he said. I says, well, I don't know what to tell you. I gave you the address. He says, well, there's no such number. And that's how it is. I worry about these children because it's a young, I've been there for 30 years. I raised my children there. And it scares me that we don't know who's walking through the neighborhood.
Valid point. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jack. Anybody else would like to speak about this? Well, seeing none at this point. Oh, here we go.
Just a quick comment. My name is Mark Havocan. I live in the South Beach area. I've never made a complaint yet to zoning. I haven't lived here 35 years. I haven't lived here 20 years. Matter of fact, my wife and I are retired, and we only closed on our house a year ago. We have a couple rentals in our neighborhood that I'm not comfortable with. It took us a long time to decide where we wanted to live because there's a lot of places in the country that you can live in a comfortable residential neighborhood and not worry about strangers coming through. Not worried about making sure your doors and your windows are locked every time you walk out the door. We chose this area because of the residential neighborhood feeling, because we know every neighbor up and down our street. That's the way we like it. I don't want it to change.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board then. Any additional comments or feelings?
Well, my thought is, from the information we received in our packet, that especially the map they have showing where all the permittable resorts are, or can be, or with conditional use, I think there's enough out there now that would take care of everybody's needs, and I feel for the couple that are doing it, and they're doing a great job, but I wouldn't want that going down in my neighborhood.
Thanks, Matt. Daniel?
I would like to respectfully and sincerely thank everyone that came out and expressed their opinion, whichever side of the aisle you're on, or the issue that we're looking at here. I feel like the voice of the people should be the rudder that steers the ship that we call government. So thank you very much for coming out.
Yes, thank you. Amanda, do you have anything else that you guys would like to input here for us?
I think, now how we proceed is just that we would gather your recommendation. We will package it up as well as the minutes and the feedback that we've received thus far. That will go forward to I don't know if we'll have minutes in time for the LPA, but we'll certainly have them for the December 8th Board of County Commissioner hearing, and we'll provide all of that feedback as well as your recommendation to the board.
Excellent, very good, very good. Thank you, Amanda. Mr. Hawkins, thank you as well for being here to help us. Gentlemen, let's go ahead and bring this to, is there any other final comment that you guys might have?
Can you quickly tell us when the full council will meet on your recommendations?
I took a picture of it on my phone.
Is the first meeting, and if it passes, it would go to the 22nd of December.
Right.
3 days before Christmas.
Okay, so the one on the 8th, where will it be and what time?
We'll be right here at
What time, ma'am?
5 p.m.
Thank you, ma'am.
And the next one's at 9 a.m., so it's...
9 a.m. on the 22nd,
5 p.m. and 9 a.m.
if it proceeds to the 22nd.
Right, so again, for all you folks out there, make sure you're at these meetings, because your voice won't be heard if you're not there. And talk to everybody that you know, if you feel this strongly, in all levels, both sides, to be there. All right, gentlemen, well, let's kind of bring this to a vote. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we leave it as the current zoning or regulations are right now, and not support the amendment.
Very good.
Mr.
Do you have a
Chair.
second?
I'd like to second that.
Any further comment? Well, I'd like to make a comment. I think I support, like these guys do, that I think that the right thing's being done here. So, all in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Please tell the commissioners.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
can we please have the motion repeated, because we
Yes.
weren't able to pick that up with the audience.
I'd like to not support the amendment and let the code as is written stand.
And of course, you've
Thank
said
you.
that
And
in
I
a second.
seconded that.
Very good. Okay. Well, we did all in favor, right? So we did make a motion, so the motion passes. Thank you all for coming here. Don't miss the meetings. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.